Good afternoon, everybody. As luck would have it, all the neighborhood lawn mowers have arrived, so I will fly through this part. Hello, and thank you for joining us for this edition of our ECU Dean's Town Halls. I'm Scott Francis, the president of the ECU Alumni Association, and I'm happy to join the College of Business today to bring you this opportunity with Dean Schwager. We're so glad you've joined us, and I hope that you're all staying safe, healthy, sane, and well. As we get started, I want to share some quick ground rules and some format information with you. I should first say that we are recording this session so that our friends who couldn't be here can access it later. So please note that we are recording both our screens and the chats. We've muted all your lines as we meet our featured guest, Dean Schwager, who will share some information, and following that, we'll open the chat to questions from you all. We ask that you keep those lines muted for the duration of the program, and as we go along, you can ask a question in the chat by clicking the word bubble on the menu screen. To optimize your viewing experience, we suggest that you click on the speaker view button on the top right-hand portion of your screen there. I'm thankful in advance for your patience and understanding as we navigate the ins and outs of the technology. So without further ado, we'll get started and begin by saying hello and throwing it to Dean Schwager. Once again, thank you for joining us, and go Pirates. Dean Schwager, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Scott, and thanks, Dib, for doing this and for being willing to adjust. We've got a tradition here in the College of Business where since I've been dean, we start every meeting with some good news. You know, it's tough times in higher education. If you've been watching the news for the last, we won't talk about how many years at ECU. It's lots of challenges out there, and it's easy to become overwhelmed. But all you have to do is stop for a second and look around you, and you see that we continue to make a huge impact. We continue to change the lives of our students. We're transforming the region. And so just a few things that came to mind. In this past year, we've achieved renewed our accreditation with AACSB. We had 3 deans on campus who came away very impressed with what we're doing. I still communicate with those deans regularly, and so it was really a great visit, very affirming. We also, in this past year, launched a new BSBA in supply chain management. For those who've been around a while, it's been underneath marketing for a while, and it was under decision sciences for that, and it's always had about 100 or so students, and it's a very strong program. And so we pulled it out, and it's now a standalone program and continues to grow. With the recent emergence of the Miller School of Entrepreneurship, there was an opportunity in management. And so what we've recently launched is a new HR concentration in management, and that's been very well received by industry. In fact, from day one, the concentration meets the SHRM criteria for what an undergraduate education should provide. In the Miller School, along with the CRISP Small Business Resource Center, they've just launched Accelerate Rural North Carolina, which is a fascinating partnership between mentors and small businesses here in the East to help grow entrepreneurship in the East. And it was exciting to sit in on their first meeting and to hear the ideas that are already percolating. From a research point of view, this is actually a slide that I shared with the BAC on Friday, but Leah Grubb, who is in our MIS department, recently had an article accepted in the Journal of Applied Psychology. For those in academia, the Journal of Applied Psychology is a diamond. It really is one of the most prestigious behavioral journals out there. But what made Leah's accomplishment even more impressive is her article has been selected as a monograph. Articles are only selected as a monograph about once every decade. So that is really quite impressive. And then just yesterday, I heard that Eric Taylor in management just had an article accepted in JAP as well. Now, his isn't a monograph, but just to be accepted in JAP is just, you know, that's good stuff. Also, faculty member Laura Madden did a study a few years back looking at how companies address crises, and she's been able to consult with local business and use her research to do some things there. Another exciting happening, and so this is a laundry list, and I can go on and on forever, but another exciting piece is we now have a Copeland Director of Diversity and Inclusion. Thanks to a generous multi-year gift by Mark and Tracy Copeland. Mark, they're both accounting graduates. They have we've created the Copeland Diversity and Inclusion Fellows Program. And Amy McMillan, who's been a professor of management here for years and is passionate about diversity, is going to be our first director. And we're excited about what we're doing in the realm of diversity and inclusion. That's a priority for us. We've also had students in the School of Hospitality Leadership win first place in the Johnson & Wales case competition, which is a big deal. And a really cool thing that happened at the start of this was our risk management insurance program. They do student projects along with an industry organization called Verisk, ISO. And so it's a thought leadership type of group that looks at what are emerging issues. And we're the only university that partners with them to look at these emerging issues. And our students had to pivot and go online. Yet they completed the project and then presented to their industry group of what's happening with child trafficking and the issues that it presents for industry. And you would have been so proud to watch them and to hear the questions that they were getting from industry professionals. And here they were only students, and here they had to pivot and go online. In addition, Brady Hillhouse, who is in our entrepreneurship program, he took the opportunity to organize with a couple of other students a virtual entrepreneurship conference for students, and also completed a Harvard entrepreneurship certificate while he was doing that. In addition to that, we've had multiple students win national scholarships. And the fascinating thing is everything that I just talked to you about happened while under COVID. These were not things that happened before COVID. These happened when our students were faced with adversity, just like you have been faced with adversity in your career and you pivoted. Our students are pivoting and they're getting it done. And so I just wanted to start off with some good news. If you want to keep up with more good news, go to business.ecu.edu/connect. And then whatever form of social media you are on, we've got a link there that you can follow us and you can hear more of the good things that are happening at your College of Business. So thanks, Scott, for allowing me to introduce that. And now, Dibba, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for those opening comments. We do always want to stay positive, and I think even as we go through questions, even if we're talking about challenges, we'll end up talking about the positive response to those challenges. So for all of you on the call, we got a lot of friends that I can recognize and see in the mosaic of faces here, but my name is Chris Dibba. I'm the Vice Chancellor for University Advancement here, working across the campus, but love working very closely with the College of Business, with this great dean and with the faculty and the great students. We had a lot of questions, and when we sent out the notice, when you RSVP'd, we asked if you had questions in advance. And so we actually got probably more than we can handle. So I've taken the liberty of trying to categorize these, and maybe I'm gonna lump a few of them together. I hope that you hear your question asked when we ask this. But Dean, just so you know, I've sort of categorized these into COVID. Can't have a conversation now without talking about COVID, right? We're going to talk about student success, and we've got a number of questions related to that. That's really what matters. We're going to ask about your plans for growth and the future of the college, your vision. And then we're going to talk about how do we support, how does these friends and how does the alumni group in general help support the college. So let's jump into COVID. You talked a lot about that already, but look, we had to ask our students to transition to a virtual format in the spring, and then we're still going into it in the fall. How have we handled that transition? We've got a great history with distance ed. How did we take advantage of that? How did we transition to that remote learning?
Yeah, that's a great question, Chris. And for the most part, I'd say we did really well. I'm not going to tell you we did it perfect. We had a couple places. We've been doing online for the better part of 20 years, and we do it really well. We take it serious. Actually, at a dean's conference, virtual conference, the topic was academic quality. And so I actually spoke and shared some of our instruments to help other universities in the Southeast, the Southern Business Deans Association, make sure they have good quality. We pivoted quite well. Students, I think if room for improvement. Some of our students had never done online, and so we could have done a little better coaching there. But our faculty were ready. The online pivot really was not a huge issue for us because student success is important to us. Our faculty, they bent over backwards. They called students. They followed up with students. They walked students through, and I see several faculty online, so they can challenge me if they want to. But we really are blessed to have good faculty, and that good faculty and student interaction really does make a difference. And one of the blessings we have is ECU's done a lot investing in the infrastructure. And so we have cameras in rooms, we've got cameras on laptops. We weren't going out scrambling to Best Buy to go buy equipment because ITCS had already thought ahead. We already had the networks in place, and we're in good shape to make the pivot. And so I feel that we are in the top 10% of schools with the pivot.
That's great. That's great. I've got a couple of particular questions that kind of almost drill down into
Okay.
classes. And so one of them is a class related to business 2200. We don't have to go that far, but the question really is related to how do you teach where there's group presentations are required? What about that experiential learning? There's kind of two parts, jumping into almost internships and things like that. But one is, how do you do group presentations? How business is about collaboration, right? So how do you teach in that format? And then we talk about experiential learning.
Well, there are multiple business professionals online right now, right? And y'all have been able to do everything exactly how you did it 2 and 3 years ago, right? Nothing's changed for you. And it was the same thing for the students. Students are smart. We, as an institution, we provide access to WebEx and Microsoft Teams. I've really been pleased with the way Microsoft Teams is coming along. We also, which makes it more complicated, but a little bit brings more attention to it. We are transitioning from our learning management system being Blackboard to our learning management system being Canvas. And so faculty were already training on the new tool. And so they were already thinking about ways to redesign it. And then students, they use the tools that come to them. And I just lost the name of it. There's several chat tools that they use. They use Google Docs. And our faculty are, for the most part, they don't tell students how to get something done, just what they need to do. And so some will record their PowerPoint, some will use WebEx, some even use Zoom, because there's a free license for Zoom for 45 minutes. And so I think our students really, they took this as an opportunity to show how innovative they can be. And for the most part, most of them really excelled at it.
So sort of the second part of that, what about internships and that valuable experience out in the field?
And actually you alluded to how people can help us. And I think that's really one way where a lot of those internships dried up. The accounting firms, I have to give kudos to the accounting firms because most of them stepped up and still provided virtual internships. Companies where it made sense still provided virtual internships. We also, if it was a low risk situation, students could choose to do a face-to-face internship. And so we have a whole system here that's been designed to look at what the risk is of the situation. Is a student in a safe situation? And they get, is it minimal risk? And so we still have students doing regular internships. So internships is a place that can really help. And it was, wasn't this last Dean Student Leadership Council, but the first one of the semester, I asked the students, and 3 out of 4 of them had lost an internship. And every single one of them figured out a way to get some experience. One student cobbled together 3 different experiences to try to make the experience that he would have had at an investment firm in New York. And I think Matt Slate probably knows who that student is. So again, I'm just so impressed with our students. They have that pirate grit that we were all raised with.
So I want to remind our audience, if you have questions, please put them in the chat. I'm monitoring that. Kendra Alexander on the team is monitoring that. And we're going to try to integrate those into the questions you've already submitted. So I just want to put that little PSA out there to remind everybody they're welcome to do that. So staying on that, you talked about students who are, that grit and just, managed to cobble together the situation. I think they're going to end up being better business leaders in the future because they're going to know how to handle adversity. Question, Kristen from Wilmington is sort of asking along those lines, do we see our curriculum changing because of some of the examples of what COVID has meant to our world, to our business practices? Do you see us sort of integrating that into future curriculum?
I do, and I think we were already heading that direction. There was a recent report that looks at Canvas usage. And in the College of Business, 100% of our sections are using Canvas, which is our learning management system. And if you were to go back a year or 2 ago, you would still see that we were in the high 90s, approaching 100%. And so we've been integrating these virtual technologies for years, but I do think that we will be more proactive. I can see us, I know when I talk to people in industry, you're looking at, how much real estate you're using, offering your employees the opportunity to work from home. So I think we will find ourselves moving more towards hybrid classes that will have in-class and out-of-class activities that will enable them to be more flexible. And so I do see it impacting. I also think that we're going to see some changes in our curriculum as we see new trends evolving. We see new demands, whether it be risk management insurance or whether that be security or whether that be fraud protection. And so I think we're having conversations on what does the future curriculum look like. We're also looking to be more modular in our curriculum. So there's a little more plug and play so students can get a little more of what they want. And so we're looking at all areas of our curriculum.
So we have a question coming in from the audience right now, and it's very similar to a question that was received from Lewis from Raleigh, as well as, again, from the audience right now. Kind of a crystal ball there, Dean. We're going to see how much you can forecast the future, but it is a question related to when do you see us sort of getting back to, I'll call it normal, I'll call it more of an in-person. I think about the business that I conduct, and it's relationship-based. We can do virtual, but there's nothing that sort of replaces that in-person interaction of conducting business in person.
No,
so the questions are sort of the future. When will we get back to some of that?
Yeah, great question, Dib. And I'm a relational person. This has been tough on me. I come to the office and I find energy from my colleagues. I lose that energy when I'm sitting at home. Love Remy, my dog, a lot. But he doesn't give me the energy that, my colleagues do. It's hard, anybody's guess. And if I had a crystal ball, it'd be the Schwager College of Business. So
That's
trust me. At East Carolina. So just before this meeting, we had a special called Dean's Council meeting with the Chancellor, Ron Mitchelson, and Ron and Grant have just been wonderful. I'm so thankful for Ron because he's a pirate. He bleeds purple and a deep shade of purple. And he'll admit he doesn't always get it right, but he always gives it his best. And we talked about opening in the spring. We're working on reducing the density significantly. So we're going to see the dorms with single person rooms. They're going to reserve university suites as a place for isolation / quarantine. So that'll give us over 200 spaces. Being very intentional. And this semester we tried to have 50% face-to-face, but we realized in order to get the 6-foot distancing that we really want, the 3 W's don't go away in the spring. So we're going to have lower capacity in our face-to-face classes, which means we're going to have fewer than 50. But what we're also talking about is, the class experience is important, but it's also those out-of-class experiences. And so how do we create different things to go across campus so that we still make that relational connection with each other? And so, a lot of people predict the death of the office building. I don't see that ever happening because we are relational. I would much rather be in a room with you all shaking your hand and, getting to hear your stories than talking to you while I sit here in my office.
Yeah, no, I get it, and we all welcome that back. So another question, again, particular, and it's sort of student success as well as some of the COVID, is related to our programs in hospitality leadership. That's an in-person activity, right?
It is.
So those internships, by and large, did they go away, and are we starting to see some of them come back?
Yeah, that's been a challenge, and because if you look at what Marriott and Hilton went through, a lot of our students would get internships with Marriott and hotel chains. And so that's been hit really hard. But just a simple example on how we pivoted, Chef Jackie, she has an in-person lab where they use one of the kitchens. Well, they weren't able to use one of the kitchens. And so what she would do is she'd go out and she'd buy all the needed things for the exercise. And then everybody would get on their webcams from their kitchens. And she'd walk them through what they needed to think about and what they needed to do. And so that's just a great example of what's happening there. So they're having to work hard and to look. Fortunately, we've been building in the resort and country club type of arena. And we have a lot of people going into that area and starting to work at clubs. And so that's been a place where we've been able to transition some of these students, because a lot of those clubs they've got a minimal service, but they're still doing some form of service. And so great question.
Yeah, no, it's a good question when we think about those particular majors. So related to this new world, this technology, I'm going to combine a couple of questions here. We got one in the audience that talks about creating some curriculum around this technology use. I mean, if in-person is the ideal, but we also know that Zoom, WebEx, Google Docs, all of those things are now pretty normal.
Right.
And pretty part of the not only teaching, but but clearly in the business world we're conducting. So are we teaching some of the things around that? And then I also, if I may, want to combine that question related to making sure that we're not losing anybody. Connectivity out there in Eastern North Carolina or other parts of our state, region, or even our country, some of them don't have that. Have we thought about and made accommodations for some of those students that don't have the best connectivity issues?
No, I think that's a real issue. That's a real issue that we've seen. We really do realize that there is a real digital divide.
Yeah.
You know, there's one thing to be sitting at home taking an exam and another thing to be sitting in a parking lot because that's what you need to do to get Wi-Fi. And that's what some of our students have had to do. And the pivot is real for our students when they go home and they've got an ailing grandmother or something, or they have another responsibility they have to take care of. We try to avoid teaching the technology. I'm an MIS professor, and so my academic discipline is management information systems. And I always used the theory and the structure to teach and use a tool to support that. And so we've had virtual communication as part of our curriculum for as long as I've been here. You know, so we've seen this move to virtual coming, and we've been pushing it for over a decade. And so it's already in our curriculum, and we're just, I think it's expanding and it's becoming more prolific.
Yeah, thanks for touching on that. And I don't think you can touch on it too much because I'm seeing about 5 different questions all related to this. So you in the audience who put those questions out there, I hope we're getting those answered. If not, please ping us in the chat room. So we'll stay on that student success because we're trying to, you know, talk about COVID, but really talk about the student success. We've talked about the spring plans a little bit, as you talked about your dean's meeting that you had earlier today. A simple question, but so impactful. What advice would you give a student in your college right now that maybe came to your office and just said, help me, Dean? What would you say? I mean, what advice do you have?
Boy, talk about an open-ended question.
It is pretty open-ended. So it's one of the questions I got.
I think that is a really good question. So I think I would answer the way I've sort of answered in the past, and that is, yeah, you've got to follow your heart to an extent. And so what is it that and that's one of the things I like about the College of Business is we can take freshmen and they can start out thinking that they're accounting majors and then end up as marketing majors. And I literally had a young lady in my class her senior year, and she said, Professor Schwager, I really don't like computers all that much. And I'm like, you're an MIS. You got to like technology. I said, well, what do you like? And it turns out that she liked working with people and talked a little bit more, and she felt comfortable doing sales. And so I said, here, meet. And I'm introduced to one of our marketing professors who took her under her wing. And a year later, I saw her graduate with a marketing degree and in sales. And so I would also encourage students to be a little more flexible right now in what their future looks like. I would encourage them to start building the network early. You know, get on LinkedIn, get involved with student clubs and organizations. I see some really good things happening between our Dean Student Leadership Council and our Business Advisory Council, trying to use this, this virtual world to bring more business people in front of our students and to reach out to, we really have a great network of pirates. And so to reach out and find out what really gets you excited, what are you willing to sacrifice a little bit for to do. And so I would encourage students that there are no easy answers right now. Be as flexible as you can, be as open to options that are out there. And actually that was funny. One of our star students that we've actually featured in stock notes that we thought for sure he was going in the direction of accounting. You know, so if you look over the last few, you'll find out who he is, but just an incredible student. He reached out to me. He said, Dean Schwager, can I talk to you? He said, you know, my accounting internship fell through, so I'm waiting for it to start up virtually. But in the meantime, I'm working in the insurance industry. And you know, I'm really good at this. I really like this. I can see myself doing this because here, what the effort I put into it has a direct result in what I receive. He said, you think I'm crazy for thinking about changing this? And I talked to him and I said, well, let me connect you with 3 people. And now he's thriving in the insurance industry. He's connected with Kurt Fickling, who's opened some doors for him. And he found, because of this, this crisis, he found his real calling. And I think we'll at least see an endowed professorship from him in the future. His goal is to name the college, but
I love the ambition.
I do as well, and he really, it was impressive, and the way he thought it through, and he took the time to talk to his parents, you know, because accounting is a very clear, defined path, and he was going to be spectacular there, but he found that interpersonal relationship is really what makes him want to get up in the morning.
Great answer. Thank you. It's time to be flexible for our students for sure. So in your opening comments, there's a related question for this that I'll get,
okay.
But also in your opening comments, you talked about Mark and Tracy Copeland making a gift to create, the words escape me, but the diversity and inclusion, is it a center or something? I'll let you talk about it, but the related question, so I do want you to speak to that, is Don from Virginia has a question related to the recruitment and assistance of students of color. Lots of questions about social justice in our nation and our campus. Talk to me about what that gift allows us to do. Talk about that question from Don.
That is a great question. If you, and I can document this, but if you go back to my first stock notes Dean's article, I established 4 cornerstones for what I think are important for us to be the best college of business we can in the future. And the first is we've got to correct our funding issues. You know, it's unsustainable doing some of the things we're doing with some of our funding issues. And so I really debated about making that the second one, but everything comes from that. If we don't have the support of our alum and we don't have the state support, and that just impacts everything. The second one is academic quality. We want to have the best quality programs we can. And so we've been working on that. The third one was diversity and inclusion. And the fourth one was collaboration. And so early on, Mark and I were talking about that. And Mark is one of the senior people with EY. And that's a passion of his. And we were talking about the need for this before all this happened. And one day he just picked up the phone and he said, Tracy and I have been talking. What if we made I'm sorry, I don't remember if it's a 4 or 5 year commitment of this. What I want to do is I want to get it started. I want to start making an impact on our students. And so I said, okay, Mark, we'll make it happen. And then as fate would have it, I met a good friend of mine, Sharon Oswald, who is the dean at Mississippi State. And they've got this program called the Diversity Dogs down there. And what they're doing is students go through a series of workshops. They have to get involved with some community projects. And at the end of the day, they will receive a certificate. Well, at the end of the day, we're going to have a group of, I think we're going to start with 10 students to start with. We want to scale it. We want there to be a small scholarship/stipend associated with this. But over a 2-year period, they're going to attend classes. They're going to go to different workshops. And then at the end, they're going to do some type of community involvement event. And then when they graduate, they will be called on their transcript a Copeland Diversity and Inclusion Fellow. In addition, we have honor cords that they'll wear for doing this. And so that's pretty exciting. But also what's coming out of that is we had a conversation about 2 months ago with African-American studies as well as history. And they've got initiatives that we're doing there. And Greenville has a fascinating history that a lot of us just ignore. And so we're looking at ways that we can partner with them to help people to understand history and to understand how these things impact us, and how working together as individuals and people and bringing all of our distinct and unique strengths and weaknesses to the table can make all of us better. And so it's just the beginning of a conversation that I think you'll see grow over the next couple of years. And Mark's hope is that he can get EY to come up to the table and put in some money, and then others, so that we can have the program endowed so that we can continue these conversations, because it all gets better with conversations. As we get to know each other and respect each other, it gets better. So I hope that gets towards his question.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks for that. It is a great gift, and it's the right thing to do. And I'm glad those conversations and those resources are being directed in source.
Well, and in a semi-related note, we also, I did mention it, but we're able to hire a faculty member out of Southern University, Victor Mabrika, who was born and raised in Cameroon. And I know Victor, we were both in the PhD program at Auburn. And anytime I start to get a little too full of myself, I look at Victor. He's got over 200 publications, and he founded a university in Cameroon. You know, and so talk about the impact, and I'm excited about the possibility of partnering and doing some things in there. But thanks to a gift from the Stallings, we were able to make him our Stallings Distinguished Scholar, which enabled him to come here and to continue his work. And a lot of the issues that we're facing here in Eastern North Carolina, he's experienced in Cameroon. You know, when we talk about telehealth, and we talk about some of the healthcare disparities. He's seen it and he's published on it. And so we're excited to have him on campus as well. And that's another gift that has really made a difference. And so it's always exciting to partner with good pirates.
Getting some comments here, just sort of, I'll call them the thumbs up. They're not thumbs up, but they're not questions. They're comments saying, I love the conversation around the diversity of students in the College of Business. This one person reflects on their time in class with many students of different cultures and different backgrounds, and how important it is as they went into business, how understanding that very diverse world. So,
you know, Chris, I know you fairly well, and you and I are pretty boring. You know, so I love getting around other people who have different experiences, and there's just such a richness to that. And I just come away a better person.
Absolutely. And I think our audience is agreeing if I read those comments. So important, don't want to go away from that. We've got some questions that are very particular. And I guess because they're so particular, I really want to ask them because they're important. We've got a question from Texas, somebody asking kind of a logistics question, moving from Block A classes to Block B, and will those classes be in the same, are they in the same classroom? So I think people are talking about the logistics of their stuff. I know that's rather particular, but.
Yeah, I know. In theory, I think blocks were a good idea. In practice, blocks didn't work out the way we had hoped. You know, in theory, when we made the decision, we could, you know, we'd finish out Block A, which ends next Wednesday, I think, and then Wednesday or Thursday, and then we'd start Block B right thereafter. And so we could finish online and then start face-to-face, but because of the nature of this, we're going to be online again. And so next week, there will be a transition. There's a one-day break between the two where faculty will be giving final exams on one day, and the next day they will be giving the start of class lecture again. They will utilize the same classrooms, but not necessarily the same class in that classroom. So you might have a finance class in Block 1 and then a marketing class in Block 2.
Yeah.
And actually we're not utilizing, it's all online. And so at this point but in theory, that's the way it would have worked.
All right, yeah, interesting stuff. One more logistics question. I think it goes back a little bit to the technology, but I think this is important to one of our audience members thinking about the delivery of this virtual world and making sure that it's available.
Right.
Does this campus have hotspots? Have we set up hotspots so that students who maybe don't have the best internet in their apartment or in their community can come to campus?
We do. We have several parking lots have Wi-Fi in them now, and good Wi-Fi. And so that's great. I think the bigger issue that we need to be discussing is the digital divide and getting, you know, the last mile taken care of, because yeah, I'd be crazy without internet right now.
No, absolutely.
You know, so I think that's a real challenge. And I think and ITCS and the library and the College of Business, we've had laptops that you could loan out. And so we've loaned those out to students who needed them for extended period of time, not just 24 hours, but for the time they need to use it. And students are getting creative, whether that be going to Starbucks to access Wi-Fi. But we do, and we've partnered with other organizations across the state to provide more Wi-Fi hotspots.
Yeah. All right, and thank you for addressing those. I'm glad we're being able to answer. So let's I don't want to use the word pivot. I'm so tired of the word pivot. Let's move on maybe to the category, I'll call it growth and sort of vision for the future or whatever. And so, you know, the questions I'm getting are related to that. Where is the college growing? Where do you expect it to grow? Sort of some vision kind of stuff.
Okay. Well, and I guess I could have included in good news. We actually exceeded 1,000 students in our graduate programs this semester. So if you think about it, everybody predicted we were going to go backwards, but we set a record, and we're actually, with some changes, we're just under 1,000 right now. But at the start of classes and on what we call Census Day, we were over 1,000 students. And so that's exciting. Our student credit hour production in graduate programs are up, but our MBA enrollment is down. And if you look nationally, MBA enrollments are down. What we're seeing is growth in our certificates. We've got certificates in supply chain management, project management, data analytics. We're looking to add a fraud certificate. And one of the exciting things there, John Reich, who's associate dean, who's an accounting professor, he's got some friends who are FBI agents and SBI agents. And so he's been talking to them about actually teaching a course or two in that certificate. And so wouldn't it be cool to be taking a fraud certificate from a senior FBI agent? And so That's exciting. Analytics is really seeing a lot of growth. We've got we now have an undergraduate certificate in business analytics. We also have the business analytics certificate. We're seeing growth in risk management insurance, and while the Miller School of Entrepreneurship, I think we really touched on a nerve that existed here at ECU that a lot of people didn't I won't say see, but didn't articulate. I mean, we really do have entrepreneurship in our DNA. I think if we talk to several of the alum that are out there, we'd find that they've got an entrepreneur bent, that they've tried this or they've tried that. I recall making a visit. I don't remember who on your team. Might have been you. It was Kendra. Kendra and I were making a visit last year, and we went to a small accounting firm in Eastern North Carolina, and it turns out that the guy owned a car dealership. You know, he had a client who needed some help and bailed him out, and now he was owner in this huge Chevrolet dealership. And entrepreneurship is in our DNA, and we're seeing that really take off. And what I really like about what we're doing with the Miller School is, while it sits under the College of Business, which gives it that administrative structure, Mike Harris and his team have done a fantastic job of partnering across campus. You know, if you remember the Pirate Entrepreneurship Challenge last year, which, you know, I hate that arts and sciences won, but I also love that arts and sciences won, if you know what I mean. You know, I'll never root against the College of Business, but to see Allison's college win that's just what it's supposed to be about, right? We're all supposed to be in that together. And we all, you know, I see the College of Business as a catalyst across campus. There's not a unit on campus we can't work with. And so I think we're going to see huge growth in entrepreneurship. I think supply chain management, we're going to see grow because of the needs there. And then we're looking at one of the things we're looking to do with our curriculum is how do we create more stackable credentials? And so if you just wanted to come back and take 3 or 4 courses because you needed that piece, as opposed to having to sign up for 30. And so we've talked about that for over a decade, but I think what's going on right now is really forcing us to think about that. And so I see us having more programs. I'd like to also see us do a slimmed down MS in management, where we could have a financial management, an accounting management, a risk management, multiple tracks, where a student who has a degree in art or theater would just take 30 minutes or 30 student credit hours to learn what they needed. So I see lots of growth there. I also see, hopefully soon we'll be announcing a center for professional success. And so to me, we've done a really good job with student success, and we've got a great center for student success. But what's that second part of the educational life cycle? And that's your professional career. And once a pirate, always a pirate. So how do we put together executive education? Can we take some of our online classes and convert them so that if you're a member of the Alumni Association or something, you get access to take those courses for free? And they're not the full 3 credit hour course, but maybe it's on a topic of financial modeling that you need or something. And so I see that extension of beyond the 4-year experience as a real area for growth for us.
So I'm going to stay on this line of questioning because I got 3 or 4 more that are very particular. Got a question from Canada. Love that. Question related to those certificates. You talked about those certificates, particularly graduate certificates. What's coming? What do you see being developed, if any?
Well, we're putting a real emphasis on graduate programs, and so we actually just received approval to go to the Board of Governors to create a graduate school of business, and so that's going to separate it'll still be under the College of Business, but we'll have our BSBA programs and our other schools, but then we'll have a graduate school of business where we can focus on that. And then if we hope that, you know, aspirationally that we'll be able to name that graduate school of business at some point to really support what's going on there. And so we're pushing that forward. I mentioned the fraud certificate that we're doing. We're looking at all of our disciplines and what's really needed by our disciplines. I would love, we've got a sales certificate at the undergraduate level. I'm being aspirational again here. I think we've got some people who have made, and actually if you talk to our entrepreneurs in the group, they would tell you that sales is front and center. And so I would love to see us have a sales certificate at the graduate level. And then I would love to see us build out a sales center, you know, a place where we could actually bring in, there are schools where companies will recruit and they'll pay to have access to their graduates who are really trained to do sales and do them well. And then if, you know, Dib and I can dream a little bit, I would love at some point to have a certificate in nonprofit management. I think there's a real need for people who know how to run a nonprofit right. You know, you can have the best cause in the world, and if you can't fund it appropriate, if you can't handle the budget, if you can't keep the fraud out and the controls, it's not going to make it. And so I think that there's a real need there as well.
So shameless plug. You can tell I've talked to Paul about that.
Yeah. Well, we share that passion.
Very, very important to me. Very important to Paul. And so maybe one day we'll get there. But
That's right.
But some of the questions I have, some of the questions I think really just lend you to speak a little bit more about the Miller School of Entrepreneurship and some of the programs there. I'm not sure if everybody knows about that. But also, I think maybe integrated into that, John from Cary is asking about real estate concentration. So do we have any plans for real estate, not just in entrepreneurship, maybe as a standalone certificate or degree?
I won't say never. You know, one of the challenges we lost a really good faculty member in real estate. Ellie, still keep in touch with him. Barack, good guy. You know, Wyoming offered him $50,000 more than we were paying him. And now he's down to Florida International University, and he actually has an advisory thing that he does, which is really cool. We do have a course in our finance department that looks at real estate. And so we do have some of that there, but I do, if there was a need, we would create it. I think one of the things we need to do is listen to industry and what it's asking for. And I think real estate actually is something that we could do with some practitioner help. You know, and so I think there's the PhD side of things, but real estate is very much hands-on. And so it's not on the, it's not on the horizon right now, but if we've got enough demand for it, and I'd certainly be open to it. What was the rest of that question? Now, John, I hope we're still friends.
I do want you to speak a little bit more about entrepreneurship in just a second, but Matt from New Jersey is asking about a concentration in the management degree about human resources.
Okay.
Just plans for that or thoughts on it?
Human resources, we just launched it this semester. Okay. And so that is already happening. Although I take a lot of grief from my daughter who has a career in HR right now, and she said, okay, you do it after I graduate? What's up, Dad? And so we're really excited about that. And we've partnered with SHRM. We've got some really, Sharon Justice was with Wells Fargo, Wachovia for years in a senior leadership position. Craig Williams, who was actually he was a vice president of global something or other for Walmart before he came to us. And so he's actually the person who spearheaded us developing that. So I think HR, and I think one of the things we're learning right now is that at the end of the day, the most important asset we have is our people. I wouldn't be here right now if it wasn't that I had a team that I trust and a team that I believe in. And so I'm glad we're going to take the people are important approach to that. The Miller School continues to do fabulous things. And I think there might be an opportunity, to John's question, to put a real estate type of thing under entrepreneurship. They've got a very flexible program. And so we might be able to put together, I've been talking to Chris Butto over in music about doing a music business program under that. Appalachian has a program that's very successful, but we've got the skills here. We could do that also. And I didn't mention this earlier, we're on, it should be released soon. We'll have a minor in agribusiness. We are in Eastern North Carolina and there's agriculture all around us. And so we're looking to partner more with agribusiness. I actually had a meeting yesterday with the new rep from Learfield IMG. And so the people who manage Pirate Sports Promotions, and we're talking about partnering with them on an ag day. We did it about 2 years ago. We did it and had a pretty good success connecting with ag. And so what I really like about where we are as an institution is we realize who we are. When I came here 13 years ago, I teased that they hired me because I could spell MIS. But now, we really, and I've said this and this is recorded, I think we're in trouble if we get a chancellor who doesn't realize that our two primary drivers are student success and regional transformation. That's our DNA. And so I think the Miller School is going to be, and we've got the Miller School, and then you've got the Chris Small Business Resource Center, and then you've got the Isley Innovation Hub coming online. I mean, we've just got some really cool things going on there. And what I like about that is it's business serving as the hub for the rest of campus. It's not business being siloed, but it's business working with everybody else.
So we got a few more minutes. I'm going to pivot a little bit. I did it. I said I was going to try to get through this whole hour. Let's talk about support. I've got a couple of questions. Simple question. Hey, how can I help? How can alumni help? Let's try to make it memorable. Let's take three things. and I'm talking about financial support because I do want to get into internships and things like that in a moment, but financial support. What are 3 ways our alumni and friends, parents, how can they support our college?
Well, one of the things I've been talking about is time, talent, treasure, and influence. I hope that everybody's on the call writes a check for whatever you can afford. If it's $10 a year, I've told both of my kids that I expect them to write a check to ECU. I think one hasn't. I know one has because they get the emails. You know, whatever you can give, every little bit makes a difference. Just a quick short story. When I was in undergraduate, I'm a first generation student. Literally, I grew up I went to high school in Merritt Island, Florida in the heyday of the Space Center. And so you could get a really good blue collar job making good money straight out of high school. You didn't need to go to college if you could, you know, turn a wrench. And my dad was fantastic at it. Actually, when he passed away, they flew the flags at Kennedy Space Center at half mast for him. But I was in college. My mom didn't want me to be in college, but I was in college, and I think it was my sophomore or junior year. I went in to pay my bill, and Helga, and I remember her name because she always told me how I pronounced my last name wrong. I Americanized it to Schwager instead of Schwager. And so I owed $500 more than I had. And so I was looking at, okay, do I continue or don't I continue? And she went in the back, talked to one of the vice presidents, and she came out and she said, we have a $500 scholarship that you qualify for. And I am 100% convinced that I would not be sitting here today if Helga didn't take that opportunity to find that $500 for me. Because I would have had to go to work, I would have started making money, I would have met my wife, and it would all be over. And so those scholarships really make a difference. And one of the things that Kendra and Chris are, you know, we've got the Beacon Scholars Program. And so those are $1,000 scholarships. And as soon as they announced that, Christine and I said, we're doing that. And that can make all the difference in the world for some of our students. And so scholarships are used, but time, talent, treasure, and influence are so important. Get your friends, tell them about the good things that are going on here, and encourage them to, you know, if it's just $20, it can make a difference. And also if they've got an opportunity to reach out to us. You know, we talked about internships. Internships are hard to come by, but internships can really make a difference for our students. And so if you have an opportunity where a student can spend a couple of weeks with you, or you hear about something, contact the College of Business. We'll connect you with Melissa Parks, who's our internship coordinator. She'll set it up. She'll make it as painless as possible for you. She will find the students for you. And so internships are a great place. We're going to be we are always looking for people to talk to classes. In a virtual setting, it's a little more difficult, but that's still a great way to get involved. I suppose, I know I touched on scholarships. Am I allowed to go a little financial here?
This is your hour. It's great to be the dean.
No, I just, you know, I think we always look at the Miller gifts, you know, and we say, you know, that's transformational. It's huge. And yes, we would love to name the College of Business, but you know, it's those annual gifts that can make a difference. And so, you know, we wouldn't have the Copeland Diversity and Inclusion Director with Amy if Mark and Tracy didn't agree to write. And it's more of a check than I can write, but it's not $5 million. You know, we wouldn't have the Stallings. You know, Clark and Lisa Stallings came to me and said, I want to give you money to use strategically. Here's what I'm going to give you for the next 4 years. And so they made that commitment, and now I'm able to make that commitment to Victor. And so there are opportunities for you to support faculty. It's been a tough road for faculty the last 10 years. Very few raises, class sizes are going up, but to be able to call yourself the Slate Scholar, you know, sorry, I'll pick on you, Matt, you're front and center for me. That makes a difference, you know, and so faculty are often forgotten. You know, scholarships, those are great, and scholarships truly transform. We still have over 40% first generation students here at ECU, so scholarships will always be my #1 priority. But how we can fund our faculty and some of the other things, you know, you've probably read in the news that they're predicting budget cuts. You know, we are running pretty lean right now. I've got 14 vacant positions. You know, we're down 3 admin people. You know, we're down multiple faculty. I had a senior law professor 2 weeks before classes started say all this stuff. You know, he was retirement age. He said, this is just, it's too much for me. I need to step down. And so now his position's blank. So Lots of ways. And what I really like about this, and I'm sincere about this, is what's your passion? You know, do you like study abroad? Do you want to help students study abroad? Are you into community service? You know, there are ways for you to help us with student service. So what I would really like to do is find out what your passion is and then align that passion so that you become interested in what we're doing. And then I mentioned, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll announce the Center for Professional Success. And one of the people in the couple, she looked at me and she said, Paul, we gave you this gift a while back. What'd you do with it? And because of COVID and other stuff, the leadership transition, we didn't do anything with it. And so I looked at her and I said, you're right, we didn't. I'm sorry, that's not going to happen again. And so when we structure this next gift, I put in milestones that they will know, and they'll be able to come here and see the progress of what their gift is doing. And so I think that accountability is so important. You need to know that every dollar you give ECU is going to a good cause, that it's, we think twice before we spend it because we realize that somebody had to work hard for that. And so, sorry, I rambled there. Probably could have structured that a little bit better, but let me know what you're passionate about and we'll plug you in and we'll make a difference. I firmly believe that ECU, and in particularly the College of Business here at ECU, is the best return on investment in the state, and I would argue the Southeast.
No, absolutely. And we hope to take the opportunity to follow up with each one of you, Kendra, Alexander's on this call. And because we're almost running out of time, and Dean, I do have one more good question for you, but I do let you know that, you know, Kendra's going to be following up. So if you have additional questions that we need to get back to Paul, if we need to set up a phone call with the dean or a faculty member, department head or whatever, talk to you about ways you can support the college, just be aware that Kendra will be following up. But I do have a great question from the audience. Thought it'd be a kind of a nice way to kind of wrap up. So Dean, behind you, you got this great setting. I know you're in your office. You got all those books, looking very academic. So the question's related to those books. What is your favorite book, and how has that influenced you as a leader?
That's a fantastic question. And I actually talked to somebody about it earlier today. So my favorite book right now is called The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek, S-I-N-E-K.
Yep.
And actually, one of my agreements with Mark, Simon is on retainer with EY. And so we want to bring Simon to campus here at East Carolina in 4 or 5 years to celebrate what happened there. And the Infinite Game is about, there are finite and there are infinite games. And so a finite game is a football game. It has a start, it has a middle, it has an end, you keep score at the end. The problem that we have with our thinking going on right now is that we're treating life as a finite game. We're treating business as a finite game. We're treating education as a finite game. In reality, education is an infinite game. And so if I were to see the College of Business as a finite game right now, I could get a little depressed. You know, but the goal of the finite game is to win the game. The goal of an infinite game is to play another day. You know, and every day I get to experience firsthand the impact that this institution made. Whether it's an alum who graduated 40 or 50 or 60 years ago, we actually awarded a degree to a gentleman who did everything but his thesis years ago before our MBA. And he was in a nursing home up north, and he always regretted not finishing that. And so he wrote a thesis on his experience in business, and we awarded him a degree. And that's so important. And so to me, if there's only one book you read, it's The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. And to remember that much of what we're doing, whether that's higher education, our relationships, you know, my relationship with my wife is not winning, and I very rarely win with Christine. And she'll tell you that too. We've been married, it'll be 32 years in January. But it's an infinite game. You know, I play to be a better husband tomorrow, and then to be a better husband the following day. And so that perspective of infinite versus finite games really makes it different. I think it's important right now to remember that this will be gone, and ECU will be back to doing what it does. Will be, once again, student success and regional transformation.
Well, the audience, at least one person in the audience knows that answer was not planned, because they did ask it as it came across the chat. So I'm going to wrap up this hour. Boy, that went quick. Dean, thank you for your time. I'll let you have the final word, but I want to thank our audience. for joining us today, for contributing to questions. I think it was a great conversation. And Dean, close us out with any final, any words of wisdom or appreciation.
Oh, one of the things is that, some people refer to me as that I'm the dean, but the reality is with this group, I'm not the dean, I'm your dean. This is your College of Business, and it's an honor for me to be your dean. And, some deans, if you go to the webpage of the school, you'll find a link that goes to an administrative assistant or some generic account. I answer each of those emails myself. I won't guarantee I'll answer it in 15 minutes, but you have a question or concern, please email me, let me know. If you've got people you can connect us with, if you've got ideas, I've got a great group around me that, I see Paige Hill on the call. I see Michael Rudd on the call. If you've got stories that we need to share, I think one of the things we need to do as an institution is tell our story better. We are the best ECU you're going to find in the world. And there's nobody that can do ECU's mission like ECU. And so I like that we're living into that. I'm excited about a new chancellor. I hope we get one that will help us live into being the best ECU we can be. And so honestly, I want to say thank you for taking the time, giving me an hour, on your afternoon, a crazy time of year. It's humbling to have people take time out to listen to you ramble for an hour. And so hopefully some of my rambling made some sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. And I hope you have a great evening.
Thanks, everyone. Go Pirates.